Welcome to the Fish House Nation podcast. I'm Chris Larsen. He's Al Escobedo. We're talking ice fishing, and I think when a lot of people in Minnesota like to chase walleyes, but I think the majority of people that are out there doing some ice fishing they're trying to fill buckets with panfish, and they just want to make a fish fry.
Sounds like a good deal to me.
But one of the things, and I'm guilty of this too, is once you kind of get a lake dialed in and you kind of know where to go and you get your favorite spots, it's really easy to go back there because you're like, I know I can go out there and catch fish. I know, if I do this or I go here, it's going to work. But one of the things that you do with tournament angling, so I think you're actually really a good person to talk about this topic today, is you go out and explore new water. And I think that's actually really exciting. And sometimes, I know I'm probably going to say this and turn some people off, but sometimes you just kind of get bored of going to the same place. And I know if I go out there and do this, I'm going to catch my 10 or whatever. Sometimes it's nice to go out and just challenge yourself to do different things. So today we're going to be talking about finding panfish on new water. And I think you're the perfect guy to talk about this to. Tell me about what you do. If you're going to go out and you're going to go fish a lake that you've never fished before, how does it start?
Well, it's really going to start with surveys, looking at different lake surveys. Onyx Fish came out with a new app that I just started playing with that is actually pretty cool because for Wisconsin, where we're at, because it actually gives you a little bit more information on the lake's netting and stocking reports for some of the lakes that they have all the information for all in one place. But that's where it would start, would be, doing my research on the computer, whether it's the DNR website or Onyx Fish, figure out what kind of species, what I'm looking for. Today, am I mainly going to go for crappies? Do I want to go for bluegills? And narrow it down as to, find the lake with the type of population that I'm looking for. And then once you have that started, then you're switching gears from research on the lake and what the lake has to offer for fish. Now you're switching to looking at maps, your contour maps. And then I also like to look at your overview of the lake, Google Earth. Hopefully you got like a more recent picture. You can see weed lines from the summer. You can see different structures from above that give you an idea to compare with side by side with your contour maps. And then you just start, marking down the high percentage areas where you really like to find fish, panfish in particular. You got a lot of different options because you almost always have some sort of a basin bite. Generally speaking, those are your, earlier in the morning, later in the evening bites that tend to be a little bit better, but you can go shallow into the weeds. You can, there's a lot of different options you can go, but you just start marking those weed lines. You mark, inside turns. You mark any changes in the contours that look good to you. I really like to focus on points that stick out into the middle of the lake, more gradual off of it, not those real steep ones. The steeper breaks are going to indicate that the bottom's a little bit more solid or hard bottom, where a lot of these panfish are feeding on the bugs that are coming out of the mud. So if you can find those transitions, your weed lines where the transition from hard bottom to soft bottom, a lot of the times they're feeding there. So just those are kind of the little areas that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's interesting that you're looking for kind of slow breaks. And I think when most people go fishing, they're looking for like steep breaks because they know there's massive structure there. That's where they're going. But when you're looking for panfish, soft bottom, that makes a lot of sense. So you get out on the lake. What's the steps once you're there and you're climbing out of your truck, or maybe you're driving out on the lake or whatever you're doing? I know you do a lot of fishing from your ATV. Tell me about kind of what are the next steps?
So the next steps are basically starting to put in the work. You get out on the water. You have your map that you already did your research and you have your spots marked. And now you're going to go start hitting those spots and narrowing it down. Nowadays, forward-facing sonar, you can scan and run a spot really quick. It's different, and makes it a little bit easy on people. But if you don't have that technology, and I've fished this way for years and years and years, you just start drilling. If you got a point that comes out, you drill across the top of it. So you're starting on one side, going up over the bottom. You want to, work the whole different parts of the water column, and then once you hit it this way, then you want to hit it at all the different angles and see where they're at, and spread out and try and cover it. If you don't have a live sonar, that's the way you're going to do it, is you're going to just keep drilling, dropping a camera, dropping your flasher, dropping a line, seeing what you can pull up as well. But it's when it comes down to it, it really is how hard you want to work and how many holes you want to drill to find the fish. Yep. Yeah,
if you're fishing in a clear water area, like I've got my Markham Quest HD that I bring out with me all the time, and the nice thing I love about the camera is it's got an arrow on the screen, and it's showing you which direction your camera's pointing at. So it's not like, boy, which way is it going? Like, you drop it down, where you're pointing. You can really kind of figure that out, kind of which direction you're going. If that water is clear, that's really effective, and it doesn't have the range that maybe your forward-facing sonar does. But if you're in that neighborhood, like you say, you drill a hole maybe every 15 feet, drop it down, take a look. It doesn't you don't all see everything, but a lot of times it's going to confirm or deny what you think you're going after. But yeah, the other thing is, and again, back in the day, just drop the flasher down. If you see marks, there's fish. If you don't see marks,
keep moving,
or maybe just drop line down and see if you can bring some in. If that doesn't happen in the first few minutes, then yeah, you're on to the next hole. But use your electronics, find out if there's fish there, and find out if there's active fish there too, because that's another thing. And again, it's something that you can really see with your camera. I've been to a lot of places, you drop down, they're there, and you can put it right in their face, and they just don't care. So that happens too, especially in the wintertime, where you've got fish that are just really, really negative and take a lot to get to it. But a lot of times, at least if you see that they're there, you can try to figure out something that gets them going. But again, I think that's where having that camera comes in handy, because you can see, I always tell people, fish have body language too, and you can see how they're reacting to everything you're putting in front of them.
And it also gives you that visual of, seeing the type of structure that you're on. So when you find a group of fish and you see that they're in this type of weeds, it's going to really help you narrow down. If you catch 4 fish out of this hole and they're gone, now you got to try and replicate what you just did. Now you know what kind of weeds they're sitting in and where they want to be. You figure out the depth that they want to be in, and it opens up the range of where you can find them. You're just slowly narrowing down spots. It's really almost, when we're scouting for a lake, it's almost like you're more trying to find where the fish aren't. You're eliminating the water. You're more crossing off the spots that they're not, as opposed to where they are. So it's really just putting in the time on the lake and really breaking it down, hitting a bunch of different areas, different bays. I mean, you have bays where you'll have several different schools of crappies that you got to get in different corners to get the different size qualities and size structures. But it really just comes down to, going out there and putting in some work.
You hit on 2 things there that I think it's simple, but both of those things that you just said are literally the key to fishing, no matter what species or whatever you're trying to fish. Eliminate water, because if you're going to go out and fish a lake or a river and think you're just going to go fish the whole thing and not have a plan, so eliminate water. And then the other thing you said is find something that works and then replicate it. Because in any kind of fishing that I've ever been around, finding the successful pattern, whether that is a lure or a location or a temperature or whatever it happens to be, if you can replicate that, usually is going to be really, really successful for you. So I think finding either, if fish are really active on weed edges, then finding a similar weed edge. If fish are really active on the gravel to mud transition, finding more places like that are just going to lead to more and more success. Just try to replicate what's working.
Yep, and if you have a favorite lake take a look at your favorite spots that you've fished. And then when you're looking at the new lake, you say, okay, this kind of looks like that spot that I really love on Lake X. Let's try it on Lake Y. I mean, it's a great tool as well there to just keep replicating what you know works, and then you can kind of grow and expand from there.
Yeah, we actually had that exact same thing happen a couple years ago. I was on a video shoot, and we were really struggling to find good crappies. We were trying to catch some good crappies for this video shoot, and the guy we were with just, hey, let's go to this basin, let's go to that basin. We found him in this basin, and it was just cookie cutter, just kind of your everyday crappie. And we were really scratching our head and trying to figure out where are these fish? And I literally pulled my phone up and I go, see this spot right here? This is a really steep. Again, this is another thing that our guy Brandon Olson taught me, and maybe to some people this is simple, but whenever you'd see these big contours, I always thought of that as a drop-off. And Randon's like, it's not a drop-off, it's a wall.
Yep.
And I see this big, steep wall, and I'm like, let's go right there. And we went over there and literally fished for 10 minutes and had the fish we were looking for. And just because that was a spot that on the lake that I fish, that's a great place to go. And what happens with those walls is that the fish are gonna swim around on the bottom of the basin, and they come up to the edge, and they're just like us. We don't like to climb hills, and they don't like to climb hills either if they don't have to, and they will tend to just kind of congregate right at the bottom of that and just, hey, that's a spot where I've caught a lot of nice fish in the past on my lake. We can't find them where we've been trying to find all day today on this lake. Let's go find something that looks like where I've been successful before. And again, it was ridiculously we were fishing for hours that day trying to find those fish, and we just pop in here and in 10 minutes oh, we're done.
That's how it usually goes.
Yeah. So it is finding those places that you've been successful and kind of replicating those things are just really great ways to catch fish in places that you've never gone to. Let's talk about kind of drilling holes. We talked about going out and how close should these holes be if you're out kind of testing and looking for places?
Well, you're probably going to be, for the most part, 10 feet apart is usually what I do. You don't want to go too close together because you're just looking at the same holes, same fish. You don't want to go too far apart because you could miss a lot of structure, weeds, rocks, whatever it may be. So you basically, how I do it is I pull up on whatever said structure, however it's shaped, I pull up on it, and then like I said, I'm going to start drilling about every 10 feet, working the different points of that structure. I'm not just gonna, oh, here's an inside turn, I'm gonna go and drill 10 holes in the middle of the inside turn. No, I'm gonna work it up, going up this way, going up the middle, going up that way. Or, you got a point that you're working, you're gonna work off the top of it, going down out into the basin, working off the point of it, going out in the basin. Because those fish, when they school up, they're all kind of moving together. So they could be using this point a lot, but they might be on this side of it. And if you only drill a couple holes over here, you'll never run into them. So the big thing is just to try and hit different depths and utilize that whole piece of structure that you're fishing and figure out where they're relating to it. And then again, once you figure that out, you start replicating it. And a lot of times you find one thing on a lake, you're going to find the same thing multiple other places as well.
Yeah. And what I like to do is if you and I were going to go out together, one of us would drill, the other guy's going to kind of come in behind them, check those holes. And the other thing I would say, and I'm sure you've seen it a million times too, you go out, you're following the guy with the drill, you're not seeing fish, but if you circle back around and come back and check those holes later, they might be there. And it might be one of those things where they're getting spooked a little bit if those fish have been pressured. They hear footsteps, they see shadows of people walking above them, and they scatter a little bit. And just coming back to those holes, especially if you're out there and it's 25, 30 degrees out, those holes are gonna stay open for a long time. You know, you can kind of work back and kind of come back to those holes. And again, a lot of times too, when you have those fish that are really moving around in the open, you may pull 3 or 4 fish, they kind of peel out, you're gonna go back over, fish a different spot, come back to that hole that was good, because there's a good chance they just circled back right in there again after they maybe got a couple fish pushed off and kind of swooped them up a little bit. So yeah, something to think about. But yeah, I think doing your homework ahead of time and then just finding those places, and once you find some fish, try to replicate those things. Replicate stuff from the lakes that you are successful on already. Bring that to the new water. All really good ways to catch fish in places you've never been.
And it's a lot of fun, I can tell you. That's my favorite thing about ice fishing, is trying fishing in general. I don't like to just go out to the places where I've caught fish before. It's just so much fun to go out there, try different water, break down different lakes. It's so much more rewarding when you actually get into them after a hard day's work, you know, trying to find and figure out what the heck is going on out here.
Yeah. You can just go whale on them at your local lake, but it's fun to get some new scenery. I've been looking into Lake Vermilion and never been there before, but it looks gorgeous, and it's like everything that I read and see about it, I'm gonna go check that out. So
sounds good.
All right, thanks to everybody for listening and watching. Don't tell me about the lake that you want to go to, because I don't want that stuff to spread on the internet. But just maybe drop in the comments what you like to do when you're fishing new water.